The avant-garde lives on in various strange ways, but video is one place that you can look for it. There are lots of tactics that the old avant-garde used which have been picked up by contemporary video artists. Acts of estrangement, of collage, of weird juxtaposition. All of those are avant-garde techniques. Hito Steyl is a veteran video artist. What Steyl does is to take a lot of very diverse found footage.
Air Force One is down.
Advertisements, Hollywood movies, all kinds of material which get mixed up and then complemented with things that she generates herself. To highlight, in particular, issues about the operations of capital, about the way in which commodities circulate. The title in Free Fall talks about three kinds of falling. One is literally aeroplanes falling out of the sky. Another is the falling of the economy globally following the 2008 crash.
Until such time that the economy comes back, they'll store some of their airplanes, and I use it for movies. Boom, away she goes.
And also it's about technological obsolescence, about things falling out of use. Aeroplanes themselves, for sure, which end up in the desert graveyard, but also DVDs. One of the things she does is to take an old DVD player and place it on the ground of this desert airplane graveyard. And it's playing DVDs made of aluminium at the same time as aluminium is being recycled behind it, with diggers coming in and smashing up the old aircraft. One of the things she does is never let you forget that you're watching a film. She's constantly making references to the kind of frame of the film, or placing films within films, or having her characters talk about the fact that they're in a film.
This plane is now under our control.
Is it HD? Ah. Okay.
These are old Brechtian devices.
We've just reached our final destination.
Brecht was always concerned to make the audience know that they were there watching a play, not to let the story and the fiction totally capture them.
Who a decision is taken who by who? Cabinet Israeli.
In addition to the 130s, we will fly two 707s. One of them.
These framing devices, they're old avant-garde techniques, but they also have often been geared to leftist propaganda. And the idea in particular that this propaganda should not be something that simply sweeps over you and bears you away, but that it should be propaganda for consenting adults, as it were, so that you are aware of what is being said to you and how it is being said to you.
Would you like to ride in my beautiful balloon?
There's a wonderful sequence in the film which shows some very cheesy video, which is presumably found video of DVDs flying around the world, and juxtaposed with the recycling of aluminium being smelted down and reused again.
This is where old planes come to die.
These are all ghosts.
But it's also where they get resurrected into something new.
Forever. Again and again. Forever.
Into something new.
Forever.
Creating the disc.
Resurrected.
Again and again.
A layer of superfine metal must be applied to the disc.
Steyl makes us aware of the way in which commodities circulate. And of course, one of these commodities is culture itself. There's a way in which capital has become more and more fixed on those immaterial things. Culture, films, music, which one can circulate as fast as one likes. I think what she is also doing is juxtaposing the recycling, the endless recycling of this very adaptable material, and the way in which human beings, when they become victims of an economy in free fall, for example, cannot be repurposed quite so easily.
Oh, I thought you could see that. You couldn't see it? I couldn't see it, it's okay.
One of the ways in which she refers indeed to the filmmaking process is by interviewing her cameraman, who's having fallen on very hard times and has lost his home because of the recession and also because of the digitization of his industry.
Do you think that digitalization contributed to the calamities you were facing?
Absolutely.
He talks himself about the way in which workers are continually squeezed.
The more control that the viewer has, the less profit streaming there is into the corporations. And then the corporations have to squeeze somebody, so they squeeze labor. They squeeze the means of production.
Stehl is an avant-gardist of a type, but of a quite dystopian and dark type, I think you would say. So, for instance, she's looking at films of the raid on Entebbe.
Don't anyone speak! Don't move! This is a live grenade. The pin is out! If anyone tries...
One of the great myths of the Israeli state and its effectiveness and the effectiveness of its military and so on. So she takes these films and she puts them into an entirely different kind of frame whereby one sees their myths exposed.
בסופו של דבר המבצע מוכתר כהצלחה, זאת אומרת החטופים כמעט כולם משתחררים. ישנם כ4 חטופים שנהרגים, בנוסף ל45 חיילים אוגנדים, גם החוטפים, וכמובן יוני נתניהו. אבל מעבר לזה, הצלחה גורפת. I talked about the human casualty and said, but other than that, great success.
There's a surface level on which Stehl's films seem to be very easy to watch. There's a narrative that drives them along, there are strong stories being told, there are these very seductive soundtracks which bear the viewer along. In some ways they're very different from old-style video art, which was often rather hard to watch and kind of boring. Also, they have very high production values.
Whoa.
They have a glossy sheen of spectacle.
And what happens to the passengers?
But underneath that, she's making deep points about the way in which things seem to be running out of control.
And does anyone make it out alive?
And some of the gestures that she points to in the face of all this seem very futile. So the cameraman who has lost his job and is maybe losing his house is making paintings of DVDs. I mean, this is pretty weird.
I mean, this was the DVD flying around the earth, and now even that is subject to a descent, is subject to a crash, is subject to a shadow.
There are some highly dystopian contemporary theories around. Ones which say that the military has run out of control, is globally universal and casting us all into conflict and darkness. Ones which say that the world is being turned into some sort of massive refugee camp. And some very dark and apocalyptic statements about the directions of culture as a whole. The abolition of critical distance and those sorts of things. And you can see Stehl's work as in some ways linking into some of those theories. There are some pretty good arguments for saying that the avant-garde is dead and gone. One would be that to some extent there was a linkage between the political and the cultural avant-garde, and the political avant-garde seems definitively dead. No one really trusts the idea that one should have a political vanguard which is leading the people towards some brighter utopian future. Avant-garde activity has always been split in a way between the dystopian and the utopian. I mean, if one thinks of Dada, for instance, as it emerged during and after the First World War in Germany and France and other places, That is a great example of a highly dystopian avant-garde, one which expects very little from art and culture and is really only seeking to make people aware of its corruptions and its complicity with the system which created this appalling war. So there are links between Stael and that kind of dystopian avant-garde activity. She offers us a very entertaining and often very humorous take on her material. But beneath that there is a dark, rather Stanley Kubrick style black humour running, which gets us at some very disturbing developments, environmental, military, economic and otherwise, about our contemporary condition.